for, what's today? Tuesday. For next Thursday, please.
Next Thursday, as in 2 days?
Sorry, this Thursday. Yeah, as in 2 days from now. Okay. Did anybody do anything fun? Any skiing or festivities? President's Day isn't really a day of celebration, I guess. Or maybe it is. Mostly I just hear about people going to buy cars. Feel very presidential, but okay. What's happening here? Why is that not? I don't really know what this little thing is up here. Does anybody know this? They've got just the new windows on here. I just want to maximize this. What is this guy? Oh, shit. See, that's exactly what I didn't want to do. Sorry. Go
to the right there.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. Let's try this again. What's the purpose of that extra little tab up there? Kind of irritating. Okay, so let's go down here. Let's open the PowerPoint and find out where we were. So on the first payroll problem, and like I said, there's going to be 3 of these. You had 4 employees, so the way that I kind of had asked you to set it up was to put their names across the top and then run the payroll down this way. So I'm just going to give you 2 of the people's check figures for their gross wages and then make sure that we've all kind of got the same formatting. It'll be due for 12 points on Thursday, and we'll correct it right when we first come into class. So we've got Sue and Jan and Jake and Joe. And don't forget to total everything. One of the things you're also going to do on top of doing the payroll is you're going to make their 941 deposit. Actually, I should probably do this up here so that I can tape it. So let me just go ahead and put this up here. We're talking about practice payroll problem number 1, and that's due on Thursday. And basically, we've got 4 people, one more time here, Sue, Jan, Jake, Joe, and make sure to set up the total. And then on the side, you're going to have gross, and then all the withholdings down to net, right? So I'm going to give you 2 of the check figures for today, and then you're going to finish all this out. And then I also ask you on the assignment to do the 941 deposit, so FICA fit. So I'll give you a check figure for Jan. Her gross is $16,2083, and Joe's is $16,645. I'll give you Jake's is $11,5248. Okay. So y'all are going to finish that. Find the taxes. We're going to learn how to do fit today. You actually don't know how to do that yet. They didn't have any sit, and you know how to do OASDI and HI. Okay, and so you should have it on a spreadsheet. And yeah, we'll go over that on Monday.
Is this being recorded?
Yeah. Okay. Question. Yes, ma'am.
So Jake's, it said that he needs $11.76 an hour.
Yep.
And you work 3 hours.
I don't actually have this assignment. Let me just go up here and grab that really quick. I've just got the key in front of me. I hope I didn't change somebody. 80 hours of regular and then 12 of OT.
Oh, I see.
Yeah? Okay. Alrighty, so I think we left, I know we talked about fringe benefits, we talked about how to withhold FIT on fringe benefits. Is that where we left? We did tips. We did exemptions. Oh, I know where we left. We left off right here. Okay, so let's just do a quick review. What is a pre-tax salary reduction that's exempt from FIT? Yep. So if you put money into a 401k, that's a great example of a pre-tax salary reduction. What else? What else don't you pay FIT on? HSA contributions. Very good. And there's one more. Anybody else? Flex spending. Okay, now here's the key. What makes flex spending different from the HSA and the 401k? Okay, that's true. That's absolutely a true statement. If you don't use your flex spending account by the end of the year, it disappears into la la land.
You can pay taxes on it, but
You don't pay any taxes on flex. It doesn't even show up on your W-2 because it's not taxed for anything. No FICA, no FIT, no SIT, nothing. Okay? Whereas HSAs and 401ks, they're not taxed for FIT or SIT. You still have to pay FICA on them. Right? Okay. Go ahead.
Question on the HSA. If I have an HSA account, I spend that amount, that untaxed for my HSA, flexible spending, sorry, can I use that for a spouse or a child?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah, your dependents and your spouse, absolutely. Absolutely. And we did an example of it. I think that was the last thing we did on Thursday, right? Was we walked through an example with and without a flex contribution. And we saw that the gal saved, I don't know what she saved, but she ended up saving like $600-700 a year in tax, right? I paid for something like 4 or 5 months of her insulin, if I remember the example. Okay, so here's the maximum you can put away. You don't have to put away the whole amount. I could elect, if I knew my bills were $60 a month, I would choose to put away $720 of my flex, right? So you only put away what you think you're going to use. Okay, cafeteria plans are basically when your employer will give you a choice of a ton of different benefits and say, like they do that here. They give us, I don't even know the amount, let's say $900 a month, and they're like, here's all the benefits we offer, choose what you want. So if I was on my husband's health insurance plan, I wouldn't choose health insurance here, right? But I'm not, so I did not eat something $900 like that. But if I didn't, you have all these other things that you could choose from. I want some disability insurance, I want some life insurance, I want some dental insurance, I want some optical insurance. I want the university to fund my flex spending account, right? So that's how a cafeteria plan works. And it's a way of giving a set amount, because in lots of organizations, it doesn't feel quite fair. Like, I don't need health insurance, but you guys all get $900 a month health insurance. How is that fair to me? I should be getting something of value that equalizes it. And that's why employers will use cafeteria plans.
what's transportation fringe benefits?
That is what I was telling you about, like if you live in the city, I give you a pass for the tolls, the toll bridges, or the toll highways, or parking, or mass transit pass. We don't really so much have it here, our bus is free. And okay, health savings accounts, I guess the only thing that I had to, or that I didn't say there that I should have, is you can't put money into an HSA unless you have a high deductible health plan, HDHP. A high deductible health plan, I believe, don't quote me on this, but is around $3,600 deductible if you're single and around $6,400 if you're a family. What does that mean, deductible again?
How much you have to pay out of pocket until insurance kicks in?
Right, your deductible, your annual deductible on your health plan is how much you're liable to pay out of pocket before any insurance kicks in. And then when the insurance kicks in, I'm not saying they're going to pay 100%,
Say they don't even look at anything until they've added it all up and got to 3,600 if you're single, but a heck of a lot of money. Or around 6,400 if you're a family. So if you've got a low deductible health plan, anything less than those numbers, you can't put money in an HSA. HSAs will roll over from year to year. So if you're lucky enough to fund one and not need it, it will accumulate year after year and it'll earn some interest. That's not taxable. And so then if you do have a big bill, you've got a chunk of money sitting there.
So with the health savings account, if you go from one point to another, it follows you, correct?
Yeah, it goes with you, not the company.
So if you go from a high deductible insurance and then you switch companies and then you have a low one, how does that affect it?
That's a really good question. I should probably know the answer to that. So the question is, if you have a high deductible health plan and you have an HSA, I think I think I can answer that. You can't contribute anymore, but you're not going to forfeit what's in there. So in other words, you can still take those, you can distribute from that HSA to pay your medical bills without a penalty. And Archer medical savings accounts, I honestly, I don't even think I've ever seen one, so we're not going to cover that. Lots of people have HSAs now, though. Oh, my numbers are way off. $1,350 for self-only coverage, $2,700 for family. Wow, those don't even feel high deductible. That must have just changed with the Tax Cut and Jobs Act because those numbers used to be way, way higher. Okay, so those are pretty low numbers, actually. Okay, so what I want to practice now is I'm making a retirement contribution out of my paycheck. We've talked about this. I think maybe we've even done examples of putting money into a 401k. Okay. You don't have to pay FIT on the amount you put into your 401k. You don't have to pay SIT on the amount you put into your 401k. And then all the money that stays in there and earns money year after year, you don't have to pay tax on it until you pull it out and you retire. That's what tax deferred means. The word deferred means later. I'm going to pay tax on it later when I pull it out in retirement. You might be like, oh my gosh, why would I want to pay taxes in retirement? The general theory is for most of us, we're going to be in a lower tax bracket during our retirement years. If you're somebody that's going to be like selling your business right before you retire or inheriting a bunch of money as parents or grandparents pass, and you might possibly have a higher tax bracket in your retirement years, you don't want to do a 401k or an IRA. You want to do a Roth, which is exactly opposite. You don't get any tax benefit now, but you don't pay taxes when you take it out.
The amount that you gain from your interest growth,
Yeah.
you don't pay tax on that either, correct?
You pay out, when you pull it out, you do, but you don't as you go. So I have clients that will give me, statements that say, they've got $500,000 in their 401k.
To the Roth.
Like any of them, none of them. You don't pay taxes on the earnings on any account as you go. The difference is whether you get a deduction up front, which you do for a 401k, or not, which is what happens with the Roth. You don't get a deduction up front, you don't pay taxes at the back end. 401k, you get a deduction up front, you do pay taxes on the back end.
So it's not just insurance. So the
Yeah.
Roth, you don't pay tax on it when you put it in.
No, you don't get a benefit.
You do pay.
Yeah, you don't get a benefit, right.
When you put it in, but any of that growth, when you take it out in the future, you don't have to pay tax on it.
No, you do have to pay tax, you always have to pay taxes on the earnings. Yeah, good question. You always have to pay tax on the earnings. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So when I say, I know it's a mouthful, tax-deferred retirement contributions, that is just a really fancy way of saying putting money into your 401k. Okay? So you're setting it aside from current paychecks, and then I'm going to pull it out when I retire. And I say 401k because it's just what most people have heard of, but there's lots of different kinds of plans. 401k is most common. 403b is what we have here. That's what nonprofits have. So if you go to work for a government entity, or you go to work for a school system, or you go to work for the United Way, they're going to probably have a 403b. I don't see a lot of 450 7, so I'm not going to talk about that. A simple plan, you are responsible to know what this means. It's a savings incentive matching plan. Savings incentive matching plan. And that's for small employers, and that's what most people in Missoula have. It's if you've got 100 or less employees. And there's lots less reporting requirements, there's lots less paperwork, there's lots less fees to set one up than a 401k. So lots of my small business clients, they have a simple. You know, you guys all work for me, 7 of you work for me, I'm gonna have a simple plan. I'm not gonna go through the full-blown 401k. Well, the only kicker with the simple plan is the employer is required to make some kind of match. And that's not true with the 401k. The 401k, I can say, hey, I'm going to set this up, and I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to defer some of your earnings tax-free, but I'm not going to match it. Okay, so 2018, the number was $5,500 a year, and then you could make an additional $1,000 if you were 50 or older, so you could put up to $6,500 a year into your IRA or your 401k. No, that's not true. 401k has much higher limit. To your IRA, and that number just went up in 2019. It's $6,000 plus an extra grand if you're over 50. So away quite a chunk of money. And then down here, what I was just talking about at the bottom, Roths are used for non-deductible contributions. You don't get any tax benefit from that. That's a 401k. This is an IRA. And that number's gone up from, I think the book's got 2018 numbers. Now we're in 2019. I think it's 19.5 this year.
So I have a traditional IRA Roth where it's taxed before I contribute to it.
Okay, wait, so you just said two different things. A
Sorry.
traditional IRA?
Traditional, not the traditional.
Oh, you don't have a traditional, you have a Roth.
Yeah, where I contribute to it and pay taxes on that.
Yeah.
And when I do my taxes, it gives me kind of like a write-off, I guess. I don't know if it's on that.
That's not correct then. It's absolutely not correct. If you're making Roth contributions, that doesn't show up on your tax return anywhere.
Would it show on W-2?
No. There might be a code in box 12, but it definitely doesn't show up on your tax return because it doesn't impact your taxes. So either you've misunderstood what kind of IRA you have, or TurboTax is not treating it correctly, or whatever you use. But a tax preparer would never take a Roth on your tax return. Okay, so let's figure out how to use our table. So everybody should get out their books. And the first thing is, so if you guys all work for me and you come in your first day on the job, I'm going to have you fill out an I-9, right, which essentially tells me that you are authorized to work in the country. And then I'm going to have you fill out a W-4, right? And I'm sure if you've had a job, you've also got W-4s. A W-4 is an employee withholding allowance certificate. And the first thing I'd like to do is take a look at that together. That identifies some really important things, which is the number of withholding allowances that you can take. You can take one for yourself, unless somebody else takes you. Well, who the heck else would take you? If you're a full-time student under 24 years old, and your parents or grandparents or whoever, auntie, whoever, is paying more than 50% of your living, then he or she can claim you as a dependent. You don't get to take yourself. So you wouldn't choose an allowance for yourself if that describes you. And then you get one allowance for each dependent. And then there's some special withholding allowances. Most students, if you don't have kids, you're either 0 or 1. And if you want to, you've got a bunch of W-2s, which that does describe students too. They have maybe 2, 3, 4 different jobs over the course of a year. if they put 1 on all of them, a lot of times they'll end up owing at the end of the year. Okay, the other thing is that you're responsible for choosing what makes the best sense for you. And, it's not your payroll preparer's responsibility to advise you. In fact, I tell people don't ever, 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 ever advise employees what they should take. People come in, hey, what should I put on my W-4? Oh, you have any kids? Yeah, 2. Oh, well, put 3 then. But the part that she didn't tell you is she's also a trust fund kid and gets a $2,000 a month interest check, right? You can't ever advise them until you know their whole tax scenario. So, let's see, what page was that on? 4-11. So let's just take a quick peek there. At the bottom of page 4-11, really, you're just filling out your name and social. And then in box 3, there's something interesting. It says, are you single, married, or married but withhold at the higher single rate? Why would you want them to withhold at a higher single rate if you were married? Yeah, there's some other situation in my tax picture that I want my employer to grab more money out of my check. So, for example, if you also have self-employment income and you don't want to make estimates, you might just ask your employer to take more money out of your paycheck, okay? Or, I've got some other kind of income. I've got a rental, or I've got an interest check coming in from a fund, a CD that my grandpa left me, something like that, right? So then you would hit box 3.
Does it make practical sense, letting your employer take some, if you're more comfortable paying that lump sum?
You can, it's whatever suits you. I mean, I prefer not to do estimates. I just as soon have the university take it out of my paychecks. Or conversely, not. I want to do my calculations every quarter and pay in my estimates for my self-employment income. So it just depends upon how you want to handle things. I mean, for people that aren't accounting types, going through and having to calculate an estimate every quarter, they generally have to pay somebody to do that. Versus I have clients where they pay me once a year to do it, and then I estimate and tell them, here's what you should do on your W-4. And you can really fine tune it. You can see right here in box 6, you can tell them very specifically, take this additional amount out of each check. $186 every week or every month or whatever. And then I don't do estimates. And then the last thing to look at here on line 7, it says I can claim exemption from withholding. Okay, let me just kind of go through this. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so that box we were just talking about, single or married but withhold at a higher single rate. I just told you you may elect to have, you just want more income tax withheld for whatever reason. But at the bottom it says, note, the IRS doesn't pay interest on over withheld taxes. If you're using this as a means to save, you're better off calculating the difference and investing it yourself. Okay, so this is what I was talking about, the exempt status. This is line 7. You can claim if you had no income tax liability last year and you don't expect any this year. So I'm a student, I make 10 grand a year, I don't have any self-employment income, my standard deduction is $12,000, I'm never going to pay any tax, I didn't pay any tax last year, why would I want any income tax withheld from my check this year? Then I'm just getting over withheld, and I have to file an income tax return to get it back out, right? So, and it's valid for 1 year. So you can't claim exempt if you are dependent on somebody else's tax return, so your parents take you. You can't claim exempt if your income, well, essentially you can't claim exempt if you're dependent on someone else's return. Let's just leave it at that. Never advise employees as to how many allowances to claim. I already said that. Here's line 7 where you fill that in. Other situations on a W-4, I give you guys W-4s to fill out, and a couple of you don't get them back to me. And now it's time to run the first payroll. I have to withhold at the highest rate. Single is 0. An employee can change your W-4, so if you get married, or you have kids, or you lose custody of kids, or you get divorced, or anything like that, you can change your W-4, and as your employer, I've got to input that into the software and process that. If your number of allowances go down, you've only got 10 days by law to change your W-4. If you lose custody of a kid, or if they quit college and you can't take them as a dependent anymore, you've only got 10 days to change that. We talked about this first one, if you want additional or voluntary withholding, so I want more money taken out. I can set up an electronic W-4 system where you make a PIN and then you submit your W-4 electronically. And what do I do with it when you give me back a W-4? I just hold on to it. Okay, I file it. I use it to input into the software, obviously. Are you married or single? And how many withholding allowances do you have? And then I hold on to it. I don't ever send it to the IRS unless they request it. And they're only going to request it if they think there's something suspicious going on, like somebody's claimed 15 exemptions. Yeah, really? You have 15 dependents? Wow. So that's basically it. You hold on to the W-4s. So before we jump into the tables, just be aware we're not going to be actually doing that in here, but that other sources of income also have taxes withheld. So say like I've got a number of clients that are retired and they get pension distributions. So if you get a pension distribution, that's taxable to you. I'm going to actually have them take a little bit of money out of each of my checks as a retired person for federal income tax, because I don't want to have a big tax bill at the end of the year. So to do that, you complete a W-4P for pension. Social Security benefits, you also are, depending upon what else is going on in your tax life, may be paying tax on your Social Security benefits. Again, I don't want to have to write a big check out at the end of the year, so I might pay tax as I go on part of my Social Security benefits. Okay, so I just wanted to tell you that the textbook is using the 2018 tax tables. On 12/22/17, the Tax Cut and Job Act was signed. The tax brackets were changed pretty dramatically, and personal exemptions were eliminated. So there's a whole link you can go on to called As We Go to Press. But for our purposes, we're going to use the brackets that are in the book, recognizing that those are not the most updated ones. But we just need to stay in one place and get our numbers from one place, so we're just going to use the book. Okay, so here's the scoop. I'm processing payroll for all of you. I've got all of your W-4s. I've got all of your rates. And now I need to figure out how much FIT to withhold from each of your checks. If, for example, I paid all of you the same amount of money and your gross wages were all the same, why would your FIT be different? Sorry? Yeah, you've got 2 kids, he doesn't have any. You've got a wife and 2 sets of twins. I mean, everyone's got different situations, right? And also, what about the part about putting money into HSAs or Flex or 401ks? So a lot of things going on. What I hopefully can do is use that first bullet, the wage bracket. So let's go take a look at the wage bracket. The wage bracket tables are on page T- all the way in the back, T-5. Does everybody have a book? So if you go to page T-5, these are the wage bracket tables. And they're super easy. We're going to practice using those. And you can see that those are set up on T5 if you're weekly and you're single. Great. TC, you're weekly and you're married. Great. T7, I'm paid bi-weekly and I'm single. T8, bi-weekly and married, etc., etc. So those are really, we're going to practice using these, but those are super straightforward to use. So that's always the first place you go. If you can't use those because of one of these two situations up here, you're either highly compensated or you're paid on a really weird pay scheme, like I run payroll once a year, or I run payroll twice a year, like a weird pay scheme, then you have to go to the percentage method. And we're going to be practicing that too. The percentage method is on page T-2 and T-3. What you need to know are three things. Are you single or married? That comes from W4. How often are you paid? Actually, four things, sorry. How often are you paid? Obviously, you know that. How often do you run payroll? Gross pay. I'm going to calculate that. And the number of allowances. That comes from the W4. So let's try this one first. I have a gal named Nani. You're going to need to get out your calculator, obviously. Her annual salary is $40,144. She's paid bi-weekly, and her W-4 shows married with 4. Using the wage bracket tables that I just showed you, you need to obviously figure out what her gross paycheck is and then go calculate her FICA, or I'm sorry, her FIT. What did you get for her annual, or for her gross salary every time she's paid? Kim? Go ahead.
15.45. Right.
I think 1544. She's paid 26 times a year. So we go to page 1544. She's married. Yep. Bi-weekly and married. So I'm going to go down, and then I'm going to go over to 4 withholdings. So I think $45. Okay, let me just, to make sure that everybody who's not here can see what I just did. So I'm on page T-8. She made $1,544 was her gross. So I go, she was married and bi-weekly. So I go down here
And then I'm looking up here for the number of allowances. She had 4 allowances. So I go down $45. Yeah? Okay, now let's make this a little bit more complicated. I'm going to give you verbally one more fact about her, and I would like you to calculate her whole paycheck. In other words, FICA and FIT, and take it from the gross down to the net. So her gross paycheck is just what I said. She contributes $150 to her 401k. Calculate her paycheck. She can 150. She contributes $150 to her 401k. Calculate her paycheck.
$150, you said?
150, yeah. So how much are you calculating FIT based on? The entire 1544? Right, you've got to take the 150 out. But what are you calculating FICA on? The full 1544. Right, so you're calculating FIT. You've got to subtract the 401k. So now I'm going to that same table I was just on, but I'm taking 1394 to the table. And I think that's what, 31 bucks? But the FICA, and I should probably split that into OASDI and HI, but I'm just trying to kind of move through this. So that's gonna be on the full 1444, isn't it? Right? Is that not what I said? So the net check then is the 1544. Don't forget to actually subtract the contribution to the 401k, right? That came out of her paycheck. $31 for FIT and $118.12. So her net check is $1244.88. So what was her tax was 45 without the 401k, right? So if I asked you, how much did the government just contribute to her 401k? She saved 45 minus 31. She saved $14, right, in income taxes by making her 401k contribution. So the way that works is really instead of being out of pocket $150, she's out of pocket $136 because she just saved 14 in tax. That's how the government subsidizes our saving for retirement. Question, Ben?
I came up with 1174 because the 401k is not actually going into.
Yeah, that's coming out of the check. They're going to take that right out.
So 1544 minus 150 minus 35 minus 118.
$1244.88. Yep.
Okay, let's see. Let's go take a look at the next one. So in the next situation, I've got somebody that earns 84,400. He's also paid biweekly. His W-4 shows married with 2. I'll give you a second to start on that, and then hopefully you'll all come to the same conclusion, and we'll go over how to use the other tables together. So 84,400 divided by 26 checks, how much does he make every time? 32,4615. So now I'm going to turn our attention 32,4615 back here, and let's work through this together. So here's his gross check, right? He's married. I go back to the same, it's the same table because he's also biweekly and also married. And I go all the way down here and I can see, whoops, that he's over, right? He makes more than $3,085. So I can't use these tables, can I? It tells me I've got to go to table 2B. All right, let's go learn how to use the percentage tables. So now I'm going to go to page T2. And before you can go over to table 2B, the first thing you have to do is subtract. On page T2, you've got to find how much one withholding allowance is worth based upon how often they're paid, and multiply it by the number of allowances. How many allowances did he have? No, I think I told you 2, didn't I? Yeah, he marked 2 on his W-4. Okay, so figure out how much we're going to subtract from his gross check by using this table. And I can just pencil that in. I can see it's 159.60 times 2. Right, 319.20. That number you have to subtract from the gross wages before you go over to the tables. So I'm going to take this 319.20 away from his check. The number I'm actually going to take to the tables is $29,26.95 to the tables. Okay? Everybody still with me? If you're not, raise your hand. Don't be shy.
The one on T2, that's specifically, right?
T2B is for a married person. So I go to table 2, and on the left-hand side is single, and on the right-hand side is married.
The one on page T2, though. While we grab the amount.
That doesn't matter whether you're married or single. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so now I'm on page T3, and obviously I'm going up to the biweekly table, and I'm going to use the one for married. This thing focused again. I don't know why it keeps going out of focus. There we go. So you can see where I'm at is right here, the second line. And it says, if the amount of wages after subtracting withholding allowances, which we just did, is over 1,177, but not over 3,421, which that describes our number, The amount of income tax to withhold is $73.30 plus 12% of the excess over $11.77. So I'm going to write this out for you algebraically so you can see what it looks like. So everybody see where I got the red from? So basically it says FIT equals 7330 plus 12% of the excess of this number we just figured out over $1,177. So really now you're going to solve it from right to left. Do this math, then multiply by 12%, write that number, and then add to the 7330. So basically, I worked the calculation, I found the difference between these numbers. I multiplied by 12%, and then I wrote that number down. And then I added 7330. So the FIT to withhold from his check is $283.29. All right, let's try this one again with two modifications. He's single, and he puts the maximum amount you can into a flex plan. And you can't just take it all in one lump sum. If he puts the maximum amount he can into a flex plan, how often is he putting the money in? Every check.
Are we using the 55?
You're using every single thing's the same except for he's single. So he still makes $84,400, still got two withholding. But he's single, and he puts the maximum amount away in this flex plan. I want you to run his whole paycheck.
But what are we using for the max flex? Are we using
The number that I gave you on the slides. Yeah.
55?
So there's no difference in figuring the table of allowance values, is there, between single and married? I don't think so. So it's that same 319.20. So did you guys get 101.92 for the flex? So first you have to subtract the flex, right, which is the maximum amount per year. You have to divide by the number of checks, right? She's paid 26 times.
What number did you use for the flex sign? That's the one.
2650 was the one I think we saw on the slides. Then I'm going to take out my allowance. So the amount that I'm going to take to the FIT tables is 2825.03. So this time, 2825.03, I'm over here, right, on single, and it's right here. 171.34 plus 22% of the excess over 1631. Everyone with me? So I'm going to go ahead and write that out. So the fit equals 171.34.
Not showing.
Huh?
Just reading.
Oh. What just happened there? Huh. I changed the input. Oh, goodness. How did I do that? See, I still see it. Oh, there we go. Is it back? Yeah. 22% of the excess over 1631. And I'm just reading this right from the table. Does anybody have a number for me? Warren, what you got?
1,194.03. Oh, that's, I thought you meant the excess.
No.
Total number, I got 262.69.
Do I have a second on that? 262.69? $2825.03 minus 1631 equals times 0.22 equals plus 171.34.
Sorry.
434.03. Close.
Yeah, I just didn't add that.
I can see that. So that's my fit. What do I calculate the FICA on? So I've got my fit figured out. Awesome. Do I take this withholding allowances before I calculate FICA? No, that's just for fit. Do I subtract the flex before I calculate FICA? Sure. So FICA is 3246.15 minus the flex times, right? And now you just run your paycheck out. Gross minus flex minus fit minus FICA equals net. So I think the net's 2469.67. Okay, so you can see this can get a little confusing. But I think here's the stuff I would go through in my mind. If it's just straight up no fit, or I'm sorry, no 401k or no flex, you can just go straight to the tables. No big deal. If there's some sort of deduction, tax deferred deduction, pre-tax deduction, you have to ask yourself, is it FICA and fit or just fit? And then the allowance is what's confusing because that's not the only thing that I subtract at 319.24 is to get the calculation for fit. That's not something I'm withholding from her check. That's not something it's only used for that calculation. Okay, and then it gets even more complicated if she has a flex and a 401k, because then some stuff you don't take any taxes on, and some you only are only tax deferred for fit. Do you want to ask me questions or should we keep going? You okay? All right, let's try one more. Maggie is a pediatrician and she makes $336,000 a year. She's paid monthly and her W-4 shows married with 2. What is her FIT withholding? this time I have to take 345.80 times 2, right? Because she's only paid monthly. And I'm going to table 4B. So her checks are $28,000 a month. I have to subtract the 2 allowances. You always do that first, right? And that's the number then that I'm going to take over to table 4B. And I think 27,308. She's going to be here. Her tax is equal to 5348.26 plus 32% of that amount that we just calculated minus 27,213. So her fit is that right? No. Oh yeah. Is that right? Yeah, 5378.79. Right, because there's just a little tiny bit taxed at that 32%. Is everyone getting these numbers? Am I going about the right speed?
Well, we just wanted to know what the maximum for 2018 withholding was for the flex account, renewal, retirement, and stuff like that.
Yes, 2650.
32% would be of the 28,000.
32% would be of the amount over 27,213, which is just that tiny little amount. 27,300 is the amount, 32% of the excess over 27,213. Excess of what? Excess of the number we just found there. So you're really only paying 32% on like $78 or $95.
Great. Question on the test, right? Once we need the tax table,
Yeah.
you want us to just use your book?
Yeah, let's use your book. Okay, let's talk about what schedule looks like, and then I think we have a chance, we'll go over one more. So what I've got on the books for the next couple weeks is where am I? Okay, so Thursday's 221, right? Homework chapter 4 is due. Payroll problem number 1 is due. And we'll go over those, and then I'm going to do a flow chart of informational return. So how do you do W-2s? How do you do 1099s? Who do you send them to? What date are they due by? What do you do with the 941s, et cetera, et cetera. And that next Tuesday, 226, payroll problem number 2 is due. And we're going to have a 12-point quiz on chapter 4. And it'll look a lot like the quiz, well, no, it won't. It looks like a lot like the others, but the other quiz was all acronyms. This will be what we're basically doing here, and then the flow chart that I do on Thursday. Okay. And then on 228, what is in my lead here? What's going on? On 228, Thursday, 228, that last payroll problem will be due. And we'll start chapter 5. So that's our plans for the rest of this week and then next week. And then we're in March, and we have like 2 weeks before spring break, 3 weeks? 3 weeks, I think. Spring break's the 25th through 29th. And then we come back, and there's like 3 weeks of school and finals. Ugh. And it just goes that fast. Okay, we do have some time. I want to go over one more topic. This is kind of a meaty chapter. Sorry to do this to you all in one. If you want some more practice, there's 2 more here. Example 4 and example 5, so you can go practice some more. I do want to talk about supplemental wages. Supplemental wages, we've identified as retroactive pay, discretionary bonuses, severance pay, vacation pay, things like that. And I think that we talked about that there was some special treatment of supplemental payments. If I got a supplemental payment today, like let's say that our union negotiated a retroactive increase, and they said, the university says, we owe you $836 for what you should have been getting since last July. They've got a couple options. The first option basically says they can just add that to my next paycheck and go to the tables like we've been practicing. Okay? Or they can run separate checks for that retroactive pay for everybody. And if they do that, they're going to take a straight 22%. 22% flat supplemental withholding. So if the amount is indicated as clear and separate from the regular wages on an existing pay stub or on a separate run, then they can just withhold 22% flat out. They don't have to go to the tables at all. And if that amounts over $1 million, it's 37%. So it's, can I help you?
I didn't know if I left a piece of equipment in here earlier.
Okay, go ahead and look. You're fine. So that's just that flat up amount. Now, this is how I'm going to tie it all in. So sometimes I want to give you, for example, a Christmas bonus, but I want you all to have $1,000. If I said I'm going to give you $1,000, how much are you going to get in your pocket? Something less than $1,000. We know that. You've got to pay FICA, you've got to pay FIT, you've got to pay SIP, right? Then I've got to match that with FICA. So what I really want is I want you to get $1,000 in your pocket. This is called grossing up a supplemental. You're probably not going to get this the first time I show you. So I'll show you again on Thursday, but let's just have our first poke at it today. Okay. So this is how that works. And once you get it, you'll totally get it. Okay, so here's the scoop. We've been looking at what a paycheck looks like, right? Gross, minus FIT, minus OSDI, minus HI equals net. When I tell you this $1,000, is that the gross or the net? Yeah, so all of a sudden, instead of going from the top of the paycheck down like we've been doing for the last 6 weeks, we're going from the bottom up because I know this number, but I don't know this number. You with me so far? That's called grossing up. What I do know that makes this mathematically feasible are the percentages for all these. So jot down next to each of those in decimal form what the percentage is for each of those. And I just told you what the supplemental rate was for supplemental checks. And also assume the person is not capped for OASDI and is not over the 200,000 for HI. So that's how much taxes is being withheld from the paycheck, right? So obviously my gross is 100% of my gross. So if I subtract 22% for FIT, and I subtract 6.2 for OASDI, and I subtract 1.45 for HI, what percentage is left for my net paycheck? In other words, what percentage of the gross is my net check going to be? Yeah, the net check is 70.35% of the gross. What do I do now, mathematically, to solve for X? It's not a multiplication problem.
Divide 1,000 by 27.
That's exactly what you do. My net is 70.35% of my gross. So to gross it up, I have to divide it. And then when you fill in the X, just go multiply the gross by each of the percentages, and it should nice and neatly come down to $1,000, and you know you did it right. And now you just multiply it by the percentages. 14, 24, 31. How much is my FIT? And how much is my OASDI? And how much is my HI? And then you might need to round in there a penny or two, because obviously you want it to come right down to $1,000. So if I take 14, 24, 31, I can see I'm going to need to round. Oh, why did that end up to be $2 off?
When they did the 22%, I
Ah.
got 12.72.
Oh, June? Okay. Is that where I'm off?
12? Hold on, my girls have to It's 14.21. That's what I got. For my gross.
Oh, I'm sorry. What is it? Oh, so you're saying 1,000 divided by...
Yeah.
Oh, no. So 1421.46. Oh, so all those numbers are wrong. Oh, gracious. Okay, 1421.46. Gosh, you guys, somebody should have stopped me.
312.72.
But do you see how that was actually kind of helpful? Because I knew that there was something wrong. I mean, it's got to come out to $1,000 if I did everything right, and it didn't. $14.21.46. 0.0145. 2061. Oh, and I can see now it's come down nice and neat, hasn't it, to $1,000. Right? Somebody can nod and say, yep. Yep. Yeah, rounded at the very end. I could look up there and see that the 3 pennies add to 6 cents, so I'm good. But if it wasn't, I would just increase or decrease, probably fit by a penny or 2. Okay, that's grossing up. So I cut each of you a check for $1,000, right? But it's costing me a heck of a lot more than $1,000, isn't it? I am a very nice employer, always. Okay, so we'll see you on Thursday. Have a great day. Sure.
It's on my Excel sheet that I'm making.
Sure. Go ahead.
Well,